are typing their questions in, I'm just going to look at some of the questions that are coming up. And we have a question here. How do you make a regulation corner in an overcrowded class? How do you do regulation, self-regulation in our classes that are so overcrowded? I'm not sure which one of you. Judy, it looks like you are wanting to respond.
We show the teachers it's not a big space. And I mean, most of the schools that we've done it in are exactly that, you know, very overcrowded classrooms. All it is a corner next to the teacher's desk. So again, we help and explain how to set it up in the training, but it's next to the teacher's desk, so they're not sent to the back. They stay in the front of the classroom with their back to the classroom, and they choose one thing out of the box. Sorry. What we've done in this time with the COVID and the things that are happening with sanitizing, etc., we actually are not giving out the soft toy, which we normally do, but we've in fact put into the boxes a sanitizing surface spray. So all you do is when one child is finished with, say, the slinky, you spray the slinky and it's ready for another child to use. So it's just literally a big enough space for a child to sit on a cushion, or if you've got more space, obviously it's ideal to have a desk with a chair, but a bean bag or even just a little cushion on the floor with their backs to the class facing a wall with one of the tools to just play with. And we set time. We really go into how it works in the training. It's difficult to try and convey that now without the actual things and showing everybody exactly how it works.
Thanks, Judy. Another question we have is, what happens when teachers are also traumatized? Many teachers are abused repeatedly by managers, parents, department officials, even by the learners. Denigration and victimization of staff are common within schools.
Sure. And one of the big things that this trauma-informed training speaks to is creating that. And you know, one of the things that I always say, and it's one of the first things that I try and instill in everybody, is that respect is a learned behavior. And if I treat people with respect, children especially, they will then learn how to treat me with respect. People often say, oh, you know, we deserve respect. But if you're not respecting others, children learn by imitation. They don't learn by what you say. And so if I'm treating you and the children in a respectful way, so they will learn, because we need to remember that many of the people in their lives don't treat them with respect. So where do they learn how to be respectful? The trauma-informed, it's not an instantaneous. I said, if it was a magic wand, gee, I would be a millionaire by now. It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that has to be done. And over time, the changes. So they reckon within a year, you can start to see major changes in the ethos around a school. And self-care is such a vital part of it. So we help teachers to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I think self-care is so important. And I'm just thinking, so I know there are quite a few people on this webinar who don't know about Partners for Possibility. And Partners for Possibility is a leadership development program where we partner business people with school principals, a co-action, co-learning partnership, and together they are change leaders within the school. And one of the trainings that we do with the principals and the business leaders is time to think. And we're hoping also, Judy, you were talking about creating time to like process and reflect for staff, and also to have staff connection, a place for staff to be able to talk about their feelings and process what's going on. And I'm hoping that the Partners for Possibility people that are listening here will take that as maybe an opportunity to be doing rounds and thinking pairs in their staff meetings, and also with their staff.
We in the self-care section, we actually give them ideas, the principals especially, how they can actually do that and create that space with, again, without encroaching on the teaching time and curriculum. So yeah, very important.
Thank you. The next question is there a way for parents and guardians have the awareness of their impact in causing anxiety and trauma on the children, and how it affects them negatively in terms of learning and teaching?
So part of what we offer schools is the original training, okay, which is a 5-hour training. We split it however the school wishes. And then we do a feedback connection. In 3 months, we go back and we connect again with them. And then we ask the school, please, can we have a session with the parents? So we want, and again, unfortunately, the COVID and the lockdown has created a bit of havoc in the process, but we are actually looking at even getting the parents to come to the school in batches and doing a Zoom session with them around the impact of trauma on their children and what can they do in the homes that they are living in to create space for their children to grow, and how can they help their children regulate. Hope House did put up a video for younger children around some of the tools that their parents can use. It's on our Facebook page, just speaking into some of the tools that they can use to help the younger children sort of right up to grade 2, 3s to actually regulate themselves, help with their anxiety. But yes, so part of what we want to do is to actually speak to parents as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So talking about COVID, the question is, are there any COVID-specific traumas that you've seen coming up as trends in the schools at the moment?
So the biggest one that we are seeing is anxiety and fear. It's huge, and it's not only in the children, it's in the teachers as well. We understand that. Sorry. So we have been doing some times where we've gone in and helped them settle in, help the student. As the classes have come back, we've gone and done some debriefing with them to help them through this. But anxiety and fear is the biggest one. And a lot of it comes from what is happening in the home, as well as I mentioned in my workshop earlier, we've told these children to stay safe. We've told them you've got to stay at home. And we've created this fear of them going out. And now suddenly we're sending them out to school. And we expect them to be okay with it. And they're not. They're not. And we've found staff are often saying, you know, children are so good. Can't believe they just sit there. They don't say anything. They just listen. They're in freeze mode. They're so scared that they've actually withdrawn into freeze mode. And so they're not really listening. They're so busy trying to remember all the things, the regulations, the rules, the things to keep themselves safe. So we've seen that. We've seen an increase in suicide, sadly enough, with depression that goes with the anxiety as well. So, yeah, but we found that fear and anxiety is one of the most important aspects that we've seen, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that. So we saw that picture of the calm zone, and it looks like that is for younger children. So what do you do with older children and teenagers?
Exactly the same thing. Just so we have items like Rubik's cubes, the slinkies. They love the slinkies, and then we have worksheets and sort of slightly, yeah, I don't want to say older topics, but things that they can do that are aimed. So I've done a lot of high schools, and we've created the space with, so the biggest thing and calm down thing is rhythm. So we anything that creates a rhythm, that creates a movement like that, we encourage teachers to do. But yeah, so the calm down space more has, you know, stopping and thinking, you know, what did I do? What could I have done differently? That sort of thing. But we give them the opportunity to first regulate themselves before they tackle a worksheet like that. So yeah, they're tools that we use for the high schools as well.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a question here. How do you help traumatized learners without setting a precedent for other learners to take advantage of making school rules and being a bit unruly?
So part of the training again is we discuss behavior management or classroom management. So it's not about allowing children to get away with things. It's about, so we discuss the difference between punishment and discipline. And we look at how can we discipline in a positive way. So conscious discipline, how can we discipline children so that they learn, that they just don't feel shunned, rejected, and punished. Because that creates a sense of I'm bad, I'm useless, you know, what's the point? And the behavior often just escalates in those modes. So yeah, we do discuss that. And it's not something that I can, you know, talk about now in 5 minutes, but there are some things that we do encourage the teachers to do around it. And it's not about letting kids get away with anything at all.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm wondering if this one's for you. How do you deal with a learner who is behaving badly, but they're not talking? So how do you deal with those children?
Okay, in class.
Yeah. I'm assuming. So the question is, how do you deal with a learner that behavior that doesn't talk? They're not going to talk to you. So if you have a child in your class that you can see is traumatized, they're not talking.
Okay, I would actually try and speak to the learner after the class. I don't think that I will speak to, you know, I will just like try and make him part of the group or part of the activities, but do it afterwards. You know, try and find out and figure out, ask questions, or maybe even, you know, if you find that there is any trauma, maybe ask his parents to come in or contact the school or the teacher, maybe to take it further for counseling or something like that.
So that feeds into the next question, because someone asked, what do you do if a learner shares their trauma experience with you but asks you not to tell anyone?
Do you want to do it, Natalie, or shall I?
Okay, I think you can do that.
Okay, so obviously there are a lot of ethical and legal boundaries that go around that. And one of the big things that we do say to the teachers, they need to remember they are not counselors and they're not therapists. And so, you know, each school has their own protocols around reporting of abuse and how that happens. But the biggest thing is that they need to just listen. They need to just listen so that the child doesn't feel guilty or bad for sharing what they're sharing, and then take it from there, depending on what it is, what the child has revealed, whether it goes. And I would always suggest that they speak to the principal and then subsequently to the school social worker or counselor if they have them at the school. But yeah, you can't just say, no, I don't want to hear that, because immediately you know, the child's going to just never share and never come out with anything. And then we've also got to remember the legal and ethical boundaries that go around if it's abuse.
Okay. Someone's asked if you have any practical exercises to diminish fears.
Yes, we do. So they're yeah, you know, one of the biggest things is, again, they're going to be in fight, flight, or fright. Sorry, fight, such a mouthful. Fight, flight, or freeze mode. and there's certain things that are going to work for those areas to help a child to calm down, which will calm their fears. And we can't shrug off their fears because they're real. Their fears are real. We know how we all feel. you know, our fears are real. And so just having an adult listen and not say, oh, no, for goodness sake, get over it. Or, oh, you know, that's not so bad. Don't worry about it. That is negating how they're feeling. So helping them by listening and hearing what their fears are and giving them that space. And then there are some practical tools that and exercises. And in the booklet I showed you, there's some in that that we give, you know, to do. So yeah, just helping them. But listening is the biggest gift we can give the children, to just listen to them.
Yeah, so again, for those partners who know time to think, listening without interruption, beautiful attention, and just being there and creating a safe space is really quite powerful, definitely. I'm just seeing, I think I've most of the questions there. There was, do you invite parents according to trauma group? So I'm not quite sure what they mean, but, you know, I assume there's different, in, you know, if children have gone through different kinds of trauma, I suppose.
Okay, sure. So no, we don't, because trauma is trauma, whatever it is, because we don't judge what is traumatic. You know, I can experience something very mild, but if I've been through trauma in the past, that thing is going to create a big problem for me. Whereas another child might shrug it off and it might not be traumatic. So we don't label trauma as, you know, in degrees. So, you know, what is big trauma, what is little trauma? But what we do as Hope House, we do run workshops, for instance, for children, for adults, parents that are relevant to different groups. So we've just run one now for parents whose children are using substances. And what can they do and how can they recognize it? We've got one coming up around, we did one last year, beginning of this year. Feels like a whole year's gone by. At the beginning of this year on suicide for children, for parents around children who are suffering from depression and anxiety. So we have those kind of groups and workshops that we run on an ongoing basis. But we don't define trauma by, okay, so if you are abused, then you know, the parents come to that. We just say we'll deal with trauma and this is the impact it has. These are the types of trauma that they experience. We do run groups for children at our centers for children who have been abused. So especially at our Kales River Center, we run for children who have experienced sexual abuse. We run a group of 4 or 5 kids together and we run those, but that's done outside of that.
Thanks. So I'm wondering, those I think are most of the questions. I don't know if there are any more that are possibly coming through. Person said here, I was thinking about abuse versus divorce versus violence. I think you've answered those. Thanks. So there's a lot of interest also in your program. If you could tell us more about it, how you do it, you know, online, then, you know, how that changes also when we can eventually do face-to-face. What are the costs? How does it work?
Okay, so so what I do at the moment with COVID, I do the program and the training from home by Zoom, but I do have 2 staff members, 2 of my staff, my assistant and one of my social workers, go into the school. So they're present in the school while I'm doing the program, because there are a lot of activities and exercises that we do. And so they monitor those, they give out the things, the paperwork, the chocolates, the things that we give out as prizes. And, you know, so there's a lot of interaction. But unfortunately, I'm not able to go into the schools at the moment due to my age and risk factors. So I do my section from home and share the presentation, and then the team go in. And so far it's worked really, really well. For the schools that are outside of our area, so we've done schools that are outside of the Cape Town metropole, And then I've just done them via Zoom, and then we've just couriered the items up to them. And they still do the activities and things, and we record who won, and they get their chocolate afterwards. So we do that. So it's 5 hours in order to get the CPD point. It's a 5-hour training. And what we do is we split it however it suits the school. So a lot of the times we do 2 days for 2.5 hours. So one afternoon, 2.5 hours, another afternoon, 2.5 hours. We've done 1 hour for once a week for 5 weeks. We've done 1 hour twice a week, and then twice a week, and then 1 hour. So we fit in with whatever the school prefers. Before the children came back, we were able to do it in the morning, but obviously now that the children are back, we tend to do it in the afternoon after schools. We've done it on a Saturday morning. We fit in with the schools. At this point in time, sorry?
Cost?
Yeah, that was, I was just about to get to the nitty gritty. At this point in time, between now and the end of the year, my costing is at 10,000 Rand to do the training. And that's to get the boxes, the tools, the worksheets, everything, all the things that they need. So that's what the cost is at the moment. No guarantees about next year. It depends on what our economy does and how the prices go up. But yes, so that's what we charge at the moment, is 10,000 Rand. The government, Western Cape Education Department, do know about us. We have, I've got some letters from the different areas around, being able to go into the schools. So they are very aware we're offering the training, because they have also linked in with some trauma training, but there's this, they can't reach all the schools, and we give out the tools, which is always a bonus. So I don't know, was there anything else around the program?
I think you answered everything, but if there is more, then you can just put on the Q&A. Wondering, as a way, just before we finish off, for those schools who maybe can't afford right now, or aren't able to do your program, what advice could you give as the best kind of next step? What can they do to start working with the trauma in their schools with their children, and I think themselves and their teachers?
Okay, so I'm going to land myself in trouble here. But so if a school really cannot access that kind of money, I'm happy to negotiate and discuss it with them. Because I've done it for a school, for instance, where we didn't actually give them the boxes, we just offered the training. So there are ways and means till the end of the year that we can do certain things. I would, it's very difficult to try and explain now how they can do it, how they can engage and help the children. I'm happy to share that with schools that want to approach me. I'm happy to discuss it with them, because my aim is not, we're an NGO, and obviously we have to have money to be able to do things. But my aim is really to impact our communities. I want to make our children safe. I want to create space for our children to grow and learn, so that the next generation, when I'm gone, the next generation are a generation of leaders that are not struggling through their trauma. So I'm quite happy to discuss it with them, and I'm happy for my email to go out, and they're very welcome to contact me, and I'm prepared to engage.
Thanks, Judy and Natalie. I think what I'm taking away from this is that it's really a mind shift process, and looking at those children not as problematic children, but children who have problems that they are dealing with, and to have that compassion and yeah, compassion for ourselves as well as the people who are then having to look after, deal with, and educate these children. So a lot of compassion to self and compassion to each other as teachers and educators, compassion to the parents, and yeah, compassion all around. And listening, I think that's the other thing. So we've got some beautiful tools and techniques with the time to think, for listening, and for connection as well.
Yeah, connection is one of the big things. Sorry, Adina, can I just say one of the things that we need to say is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. That's the mind shift we need to make.